I think that in the space now, we know that in STEM in general, women and minority groups or marginalized groups are underrepresented. So as I'm looking at it, it's an opportunity for us to really dive in, be using the technology, and also thinking about beyond the technology in areas of either compliance, risk management. Those sort of items are opportunities for us really to shine and step in even further. So those are different areas that I'm seeing right now as a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much in AI in that field that showcases opportunity, compliance, procurement, all kinds of different areas in which AI is really touching. So amazing point. And Anna, you're a CEO of an AI-based company, which is just amazing. Can you kind of tell us your experience on that leadership path?
Sure. So I've been in the AI ML space for about 10 years now, and often I was the only woman in many of the engineering teams I was in. So I personally believe, having been in a lot of women in STEM groups and women in tech groups, AI in particular lowers the barrier of entry, because I worked in so many programs and events catered to getting more women into tech. And I think with a natural language interface, AI sort of like lowers that barrier, and it is opens up a lot of opportunities for women to get more into the tech space, not just AI, but like any sort of like tech endeavor. Especially since what I've been observing in my role as a mentor to many early professionals is that it is taking away the barrier of coding, because through platforms like ChatGPT or Claude, you can prompt how to code or how to program any sort of application. So what I'm seeing is that a lot more people, especially marginalized communities, are coming into the field of tech through AI in particular.
Absolutely. So cool. That generative AI is really kind of bringing up that business technologist. And I'm sure, Dr. Sue, you've seen something similar. Would love to hear your thoughts on kind of the executive role of AI in leadership.
So I find it very interesting. I think, you literally made me think. Last year, I live in Colorado, and I was at this session, an all-day session, where there were students, young men and women. And if I recall correctly, out of all the students, there were only two women in there, two young females in AI, and the rest were all young boys, young men. And that made me pause actually quite a bit on the pipeline that we are creating in this country, and where we are with STEM, and where we are in creating this future leadership. So I'm frankly very delighted to see someone like Anna and others here on this panel. I think there's a huge dichotomy between our wish of what we would like to see versus the reality of what we are seeing, right? I think in this new era, I am seeing a lot of new positions both in federal, state, as well as in the commercial sector, at least in the US, and even in EMEA, for roles such as Chief Data Officer, Chief Data Analytics Officer, Chief AI Officers. What I'm not seeing, however, is that those roles are necessarily filled in by women. And I'm fine with that, in the sense that they should be filled by merit. I don't want it to be filled by women because of gender. I want it to be filled by merit. But I think there are plenty of women, frankly, who are, by sheer dint, by their own, have a lot of merit, right? And I don't want to, say what we already know, is that sometimes some of us are overlooked. And I think we have reached that phase where we ourselves have recognized that, and we've got a lot of support, both from men and women in the workplace, where hopefully we are not just a token representation, because we don't want to be a token representation. We want to be recognized, and we have earned the seat at that table. But unfortunately, I do think that instead of getting a full seat, we are probably at a quarter seat or a half a seat, right? We may have not even added an additional seat. And so we're still jostling. That is my honest view. Now, does that mean that we'd stop jostling? Absolutely not. I think my concern, frankly, from an executive level, is less about that and more about where our future lies. And I think the future is what worries me. The future is the pipeline. The future is whether there is deep interest in the areas of STEM, forget AI for a minute, is in the area of data, to Anne's point, because without data, you're really not going to have good AI. And in this buzzword of AI, I am a little uneasy to actually talk about AI without understanding the foundations and the fundamentals of what data is. And so we're kind of glossing over, we are using words like executive leadership, AI, what AI can do, what AI is going to replace. And we're not talking about the anchor and the foundations upon which AI is going to be built and where those resources are going to come about and where we are going to create those opportunities, where we're going to meld and frankly address some of these disparities, both from a gender point of view, as well as not just gender disparities, but other disparities as well, and then address the issue of AI building, and then build leadership, because not everybody needs to be a leader. Not everybody has that innate quality of being a leader. You can be an innovator, you can be a solution reviewer, you can be in compliance, you can be an auditor. There's so many different roles, both in data as well as in AI, the multiple roles. You don't need to be technical. You can be in pre-sales, you can be in sales, multiple avenues for people to be engaged in this industry. But I am very, very, I wouldn't say skeptical. I wouldn't even say worried. I think just bringing it home to say, what do we want to build? What is the future and who are we competing with? Because the world is shrinking and we have to be very competitive and very on edge. And so I don't know how many of those conversations we are having in the workplace. I sure hope that we are, but that's where I'm going to leave it.
Right. Yes, certainly. Lots of defining to do as an industry, as a society, no doubt on that. So going to you, Nejo, what's your thoughts on kind of this journey of what AI is looking like as far as leadership? I think I posted a stat on LinkedIn and tagged you guys on it, but we're only seeing, according to the 2023 Women in the Workplace from McKinsey and Company, about 8 to 9% of women being in kind of those technical leadership roles, head of IT, CTO, CIO. Kind of what is your take on that trend in the industry?
So I'd like to think that, having grown up in IT and cybersecurity, that maybe there's a number of us that have I don't think the path will ever be paved, but maybe it's a little less bumpy for those that are coming up in other technical areas of the industry. And we take a look at IT, and then the percentage of women is still low. Cyber, I think we're in the 20s, and you look at industrial cyber and it's probably 8 or 10%. But it's forums like this, having this panel, having these discussions about what does that look like? How are we creating spaces for women? And you mentioned risk. So we're seeing a lot more roles for risk in AI, definitely leadership roles as chief risk officers. Dr. Sue, I share your passion for questioning the pipeline. What are we doing to create that next generation in the workforce? I don't have any answers. I'm hoping to glean some insights from this panel today, but I think these are all questions we definitely need to be having in this discussion.
Absolutely. And that's a big reason why for just bringing this visibility and this representation to have this conversation is we might not have all the answers, right? But we
Right.
at least are bringing it to the table and having the discussion, which is an important first step. So Maggie, kind of going to you, you have an interesting kind of insight into this because you're in actual curriculum and you teach people how to talk about AI. So what have you seen kind of in your industry around the women in these executive leadership roles?
Yeah, so I work pretty much daily with leaders from different companies all over the world, really, and their teams that are trying to upskill themselves. I think that we're actually in like a really unique time because there really isn't a good direction from anybody on like what is the right step with AI. A lot of these other areas are a little bit more defined, right? You've had risk management going on for years. You've had some cyber stuff, but like data has really been largely like untouched. Like I used to work in banking and we had a chief data officer. Like it was not always like people didn't always respect the role, right? They didn't always respect like what the goals were. And I think that's that's changing now because people are seeing AI and they're seeing like this big buzzword and they want to make an impact, right? But they don't even know what to do. Like a lot of like C-suites at companies have no idea what that really means or what it means to get there. And I think it's a huge opportunity for women. I mean, anybody, but like hopefully women or minority groups to really raise their hand and say like, I have this idea. Let me help like drive this home for you. And a lot of that does start with the skill portion, right? Becoming AI literate, like you don't need to be the technical like mastermind in the room to really make an impact in this space. Like you have that AI literacy, you understand what generative AI is, you understand some of the technical like landscape, you can make a massive impact. And a lot of it starts by raising our hand, which even as a woman myself, I know that sometimes that's a challenge in itself for a lot of people, right? Is like advocating for ourselves. Like a lot of people don't do that well. I know I've had to learn that the hard way throughout my own career. But I think that that's like the opportunity. That's like the door. We have the door cracked right now. And I think a lot of people can like swing that wide open if they kind of choose to.